Hi, everyone. Welcome to FR8 Marketing Gurus. Today, we're here with Coleman Ruffin, the glue guy of Data Consulting Group. How did you get that name, Coleman?
I promise it is not me sitting here, sniffing glue or whatever it is. It's something that actually happened directly out of my first job from college, and it's kind of stuck with me since. I've just been the person that tends to bring people together. Kind of, I don't want to say life of the party, but like, okay, we have two separate teams. Like, how do we bring everybody to be a cohesive one too? So one time somebody said it, and it kind of just stuck ever since. No pun intended.
You put it on your resume.
Yeah. Oh, I do have it on there, and everything too.
You should make your what is that called? Like your handle or your podcast name should be the glue guy.
That's what it should be. And I think it goes to some things I'm sure we will touch on here is building a personal brand and how important it is. Some things, and again, I keep saying stick. That sounds terrible. Some things follow you around as you go through your career.
Yeah. Well, awesome to have you here. I like to start with an icebreaker. So your question is, if you can invite any three people to dinner, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Man. First and foremost, thank you for having me as well. Yeah, that's a hard question. And I feel like you can be asked this question any given time and you're always going to get different answers or give different answers. I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction, I think. The three people that I would choose. So first and foremost is going to be Herman Boone. For those, okay, do you know Herman Boone?
I'm just saying you're taking a sophisticated approach.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm going to go all across the board. So you're going to get a little flavor of everything. So Herman Boone, for those that don't know, the infamous coach or famous coach, if you will, from Remember the Titans, that I think is one of just the most amazing stories in the world. But talking about being a glue guy, I think one of the most profound times in our country's history, bringing these people together to create a high performing team. I think it's just an amazing story, and just picking his brain about what that was like, how he did it and was able to accomplish that. I think
that was his era. What did he accomplish? Who did he bring?
Well, so that was if you know the movie The Remember the Titans, when there was a big integration of African Americans and whites within schools, and then building a football team of just figuring out how to do that.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the people that I would love to have a story time and dinner with. The other is going to be Chris Kyle. So again, another movie reference in that sense, but American Sniper is the movie that was created after him. So one of the deadliest snipers in U.S. history, but somebody at that level, so who's in a Navy SEAL, the story that goes along with him of how he got into this seat, how he went to 4 different tours overseas, and what kind of kept him going. Again, I'm sure he's got some amazing stories, but hearing somebody who's in that, hey, I'm a Navy SEAL, best sniper in history, how he kind of went through that would be amazing. So those are two. Now, here's where my third one goes completely awry. I would definitely want to have Bert Kreischer there. So again, for those that don't know, he's a pretty well-known comedian. He's really well-known for his joke, The Machine, and that's, again, a great story. But he is just a blast, and there is never a conversation that ever finds a lull with him. And I know that he would want to go do something after dinner too. So after dinner, he's also the one that's going to keep the conversation going, have the comedic.
He's going to keep it light.
Exactly.
Because you've got some very serious people.
Exactly. Yeah. As those two keep it very serious. Yeah. Have some kind of crazy stories, dark stories. This guy's coming in, just having the comedic relief, but he's a big partier too. So afterwards, like, all right, let's go out to the bar. Let's have a good time. So I know I'm thinking about it from a not only dinner perspective, but how we can keep the night going.
Perfect. Not just now, but the later.
Exactly.
So many years ago, TMSA had a speaker, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but he was the one that was behind finding Osama bin Laden. And so I'm a veteran, and I was like fangirling. I was like, this is amazing. Like he was telling that story, and like, I mean, it was insane. I love a good storyteller. I'm not one of them. I could tell that you are. It's definitely something I need to work on. But this guy telling his story about how he was overseas and finding Osama and like going into caves, talking to people, watching hands, like all this stuff. It would definitely be a good conversation at the table.
Very much so. And I didn't know that you were a veteran, so thank you for your service. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think that so going from the storytelling perspective, I think it's super important to be able to have that. And I think realistically, that's how a lot of things get done in business. All of us in some way, shape, or form are telling a story. And to your point, a lot of the war stories are just, it is insane to hear what people go through. And I think it draws a lot of people in. I mean, me included. Yeah, exactly. So I could see exactly where you would be. I would be just jaw dropped listening to this guy too, I'm sure, if I was there.
No, that was a really great speaker. I mean, TMSA has pretty good speakers in general, but that one was definitely one that was like near and dear to my heart. So
Yeah, exactly. It
definitely
resonates,
connected on
which is
that.
great. Yep.
All right. So you're over at Beta. Tell us a little about Beta.
Yeah. So similar from some of the stuff that you've been doing too, or a marketing consulting firm. And actually, that we're talking about storytelling. That is one of the big emphasis that we have with a lot of our clients is how we craft their story, and then how that affects their go to market. So I'm kind of a little bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, if you will, within our current team, where I'm helping out across the board, but we're again from that standpoint kind of a traditional marketing consulting firm where we're focused on building brands to stand out within specifically the supply chain space.
Awesome. And is that just key messaging, or do you also do like visuals?
Yep. So I would say we do everything. Our bread and butter is the messaging side of things. But yes, we help out with socials, websites, and everything. But we're also the firm believers if you don't have the messaging right, all of the other stuff kind of just is there. It doesn't really communicate as effectively as it should. So we always start with the messaging side.
Yeah.
But yes, we still do everything across the board.
Perfect. So what's one lesson you learned on your job that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life?
This probably isn't the marketing necessarily answer that everybody's going to want to hear. This is more so from like a personal standpoint, not only in this role, but just across the board.
Yeah.
I think that the power of network is something that is extremely underrated in our space. Now, right, somebody like yourself, I've definitely learned this as of late, and then people within our networks or our surroundings, I think, have a very big emphasis on it. But coming out of college, working in a Fortune 250 company at C.H. Robinson, it was just pound the phones and go, right? Like,
Yeah.
but if you are able to continue and build your network, that, in my opinion, is how everything starts to grow, not only from your career standpoint, but also, hey, if the next job is something that you need, like, oh, I don't know what to do. Applying to jobs, sure, it can work. You might apply to 75, 100, you might get the job. But if you reach out to 10 to 15 people that you have close in your network, that is so much more effective. So the power of networking was always something that I didn't quite value enough earlier on in my career. And over the 10, 12, oh man, coming up on 13 years that I've been in the industry, it's something that has continually found a larger and larger emphasis, because you never know when you're going to tap into these people's network or into these people's services, whatever it is. And the more people the better you are, to set up to succeed, in my opinion.
I think I was very similar to you that I was doing my job, but I didn't realize that and I just heard this recently, and I'm sure I've heard it before, but your net worth is your network. And I'm like, that is such a powerful statement because, at times it's who you know to get into, a job position, kind of like you were saying. But then today, if I know you and you reach out to me like, hey, I'm looking for a job, do you know of anything?
Yeah.
If I don't know of anything, I'll do an anonymous post on my LinkedIn just to help, just to help people out. I know people are looking, and I know people are looking for employers, and people are looking for good employees. So it's just trying to make, those connections and stuff. But I was so impressed with, I want to say her name was Raina from Upwell, and you would have met her at Manifest. She was an intern, and she was rocking it out like
oh my
no
goodness.
other. She was like, I'm Raina, I'm with Upwell. And then at the end, I found out she was an intern, but I was just so impressed with her putting herself out there and meeting the people and building connections. That's awesome. And you really don't see it with younger generations. So
100%. I remember I think I was just even so we did go to karaoke and she was chopping it up with everybody. She crushed it. But even before then, I was just on the expo floor over at Manifest, and she just came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm Raina. I'm working with Upwell. Like, who are you?" And I'm like, good for you. That is not something that's easy to do, right? From a personal branding standpoint and building your network, that's huge. But even if we're looking at it from a professional standpoint, this is what a lot of companies, this is where they add value to the market, right? Like if we're looking at it from a broker standpoint, that's why a lot of shippers end up working with brokers, or carriers work with brokers, because they've got the network of the business that they're trying to land. Similar idea from a third-party recruitment firm, right? You go there because they have the network of candidates or potential roles, as opposed to just you doing the same thing. So it goes across the board, from building out your personal network, which is extremely important, but why you also start engaging with some of these other companies.
So, I mean, Raina is a good example of just going to the show, putting yourself out there and introducing, but how else, like what tips would you give somebody who's starting out in the industry? If you could go back and give yourself advice 13 years ago and say, all right, Coleman, you got to build your network, where would you start?
Yep. So I would start, man, and I would love to say, do the Raina route. Like me starting out in my career, I probably didn't have the fortitude, I guess, to go out and start just talking with everybody. It's a pretty intimidating thing. So kudos to her again. But I would say that I would latch on to 4 to 5 people that I would consider mentors. Right, somebody that has been in that seat, somebody that has a little bit of a network, and then just follow them around. I want to be on every phone call. I want to go to every conference with them, and I want to be introduced into those circles, because that's a nice, easy segue into those. And again, I think that that's something that I was lacking earlier on in my career is, so from a networking standpoint, yes, but also just latching on to, 3 or 4 people that I really thought highly of and have done some great things. That is a super easy way to start building your network, because, right, this person has a well-established brand. They can go talk to anybody, and then you start to get into that circle as well. And then it really does snowball from there.
Right. And that's kind of like the whole point of like freight movement, is that like we're leveraging our connections to make more connections. And so even, advice for, 13 years ago, Coleman, look for opportunities to join communities. There are so many communities, especially in our industry. There's communities everywhere, but that's a really good place to start. There's transportation clubs, there's associations, there's groups like Freight Movement or Broker Carrier Summit. And it's just get involved. And I'd say also volunteer and meet people, because I think that'll change your trajectory immensely with time. Yeah.
And it's in whether you went to college or not, like that's a whole other conversation. If I think college is going to be here in the future, but I think it's the exact same similar mindset as in college, right? You go there, you want to meet people, you got to put yourself out there, join different clubs, join different associations, and it's the exact same thing from a professional standpoint. So take that same motto, right? And sometimes, right, if it's your first job out of college, maybe not the best idea or the most cost-effective way just to go to Manifest, not throwing any shade at Manifest. Absolutely one of the best spots in the world.
That one was
but it was so much fun, and literally some of the best networking ever. But to your point, there are local communities and local things that you can do that doesn't require, 4 nights in Vegas, a long flight, whatever it might be.
And all the high costs.
Exactly. It's something that's a little bit more cost effective, where you can kind of get your feet wet and then start to grow it from that standpoint, and then go to some more of these national events.
Yeah. So as the glue guy, how do you apply that that method to marketing and brand building?
Yeah. Man, I think that there's a bunch of different ways, and it really is kind of going back to the networking side of things. I think that, okay, let's say you're at a 15 to 20 person company, right? From a marketing and brand building, your biggest asset, 2 biggest assets, are your customers, in my opinion, and your employees, right? And I think that from a me standpoint of bringing teams together, I firmly believe that if you can have every single one of your employees, I don't care if you're a software engineer, an operations person, sales rep, whatever it is, if you can have everybody somehow be involved within the marketing and brand building, that is massive. Now, I think some good examples of that, and this is at least in the beginning, right? Some may have tailed off a little bit, but I think a perfect example of that when it started was Steam Logistics, right? Like, in my opinion, everybody saw as soon as a customer landed, their whole entire team was posting about, oh, we hit the gong, right? Like, and that kind of blew up. And then
Oh yeah.
Reed Lancelot then had the freight gong and all of this stuff. That is an example of bringing a team together over a common thing, saying, hey, we're all winning together. Let's hit the gong. And then it's posting it on socials, and it blew up, right? I think that from a glue guy perspective, that is probably one of the best ways to build a marketing and branding campaign is utilizing your employees and then being able to share that with the world. Now, are there other ways to build great marketing campaigns and everything like that? Of course. But from a bringing people together standpoint, I think that is huge. And other similar companies have done similar things. Like Freightbana has had some great employees that go out and just say day in the life and like, oh, I get to go to work again. This is what we're doing today, yada, yada, yada. But from me, in my team standpoint, that's what I love to do. Again, kind of get everybody together on the same page. It's like, A, let's make sure we're having fun. If you're not having fun, how are you going to expect your employees to be, bragging about what's going on or posting about things? It makes it a little bit harder. And it's a similar aspect from customers. If your customers aren't happy, how could you ever expect them to be like, oh, this is the best service that I've ever had, or like best product that's out there, yada, yada, yada. So it's talking through that, making sure that you're servicing your employees, customers, whatever it is, as best you can, and then figuring out ways to bring the collective together.
Yeah, definitely. So what role does storytelling play in marketing within the supply chain space, and how can companies leverage it effectively? You just gave a great, story with, the gong, but what about like, what are some other ways they could tell their story?
Yeah. So this is, and we were talking a little bit about this earlier. I think storytelling is at the foundation of everything. You said earlier that you're not a good storyteller. I would challenge you. I bet that if we told stories right now, you'd have some pretty darn good stories to tell. But it goes across the board, again, from a personal brand and also a company brand. The biggest advice, if I'm going to not talk another 43 minutes just about this, the biggest advice that I could give to a company, and shout out to Trey, right? This is something that we've worked pretty closely on with a lot of companies, is that when you're telling the story to a customer, right? This is the inception of us. This is what we do for our customers. Make sure that your customer, or your prospect in this sense, is at the center of that story. When you're selling to a company, you don't want to sit there and say, this is what we do, this is why we're the best, like yada, yada, yada. You're pounding your chest. It's the traditional sales acronym, like WIFM, what's in it for me? You have to make sure that they are the hero of your story. So when you're telling and selling, for that matter, you paint the picture of where your prospect is, right? You're telling their story and then saying, okay, it sucks being up late at night because you're stressing about XYZ, your customers aren't paying or anything along those lines. You're building that story for them, saying, okay, now here I am as the guide in that story. So your customer or prospect is the hero. They're the center of everything. This is where our company comes in to help alleviate those stress points, those pain points that you're feeling. And this is the solution that's going to help get you to where you want to go long term. You don't need to be up late at night worrying about customers paying. You don't need to worry about X, Y, and Z or whatever is happening in your story. We are the guide. And I think another easy way that we communicate this with prospects and clients as well is, if you think of the Hunger Games, right? Have you seen the Hunger Games before? I hope you have. Okay. Some people haven't. I'm like, oh man, it's a great fun
three of them, aren't there? There's at least two. There's three.
I think there might even be more at this point. But
okay, I'm behind.
Exactly. As long as you've seen the first one, that's really what's important to me. But so Katniss Evergreen, she's the one that goes in the Hunger Games. Again, she is the hero in this story. And when you are selling to your customers and clients, that's how you should be framing this, is that they are Katniss Evergreen. And then you are the people that are surrounding her, helping her get through the Hunger Games, right? I forget the guy's name, but Woody Harrelson's character. Hey, this is how you win. You got to get sponsors, because then they're going to give you things that are going to help you survive the games. He's teaching her how to actually win. That's what you need to position yourself as. So the biggest thing, storytelling. Yeah, you are not the hero of the story. Everything has to be about your customer. You're here
That's
to help them
something that,
along that
like,
journey.
I love that you're saying many times, and I'm still saying this today. If you are doing your social media and only talking about yourself, you're not
Yep,
doing it right. Like, you
100%
need to be
agree.
talking about, what are the pain points, what's going on in the industry right now, and how you're helping clients solve it, and even letting
Yeah,
your clients tell that story. That's even more like, that's a better option. But if
yeah.
you're just talking about yourself and your products,
Hmm.
you're not doing it right.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
It
really
gets
not.
lost with everything because,
It's
and again, to your point, I think people like to hear about themselves, right? Like, or I guess a better way to put it is people like to see how things are truly going to affect them. Right? Like, oh, I've got the best load board that's out there. I've got the best pricing tool that's out there. And it's like, okay, that's great. So does that's what everybody else says
what
though
everybody
too.
else says. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like, how is it the best, and how is it truly affecting me in my day to day life, and how is it going to make my life better? If you switch
100%.
that narrative, you literally could have the best pricing tool in the world. But if you just keep pounding your chest, and then there's another company that has good pricing, maybe not the best, but they're saying, listen, it sucks sitting there quoting 50 lanes and you get one of them or whatever it might be. Like, we have a solution to help you do that. And you're like, oh, it does suck to quote 50 lanes and only get one. Like, let's take a look
Yeah.
and see what happens. It's literally just a reframing of the exact same thing that you're doing. But there are still so many companies, absolutely so many companies that are just me, 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 me. It's like, no,
Yeah.
focus on the people that you're
I, like,
servicing.
see it on LinkedIn and I'm like, "Oh."
It stresses me out. It
Right.
stresses me out.
I see that, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna keep scrolling."
Yeah.
Scrolling. No, but, so you guys leverage Don Miller's, methodology, which is
Yep.
telling the brand story. And then the other
Yep.
thing that I wanna just name drop really quick, there's a book, I know the first name is Latane, and the name of the book is, No Forms, No Spam, No Cold Calls, and it's all about customer-centric marketing. So just kind of
Huh.
putting that out there for anybody looking for a good book to read about exactly this. That's a really great book.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at my other screen right now because I'm looking it up and I'm going
You
to
like to
order
pull that up.
it. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, you always got to be continually learning. I think.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you always gotta be learning, and, like, there's these different eras, right? We've had traditional, we've had digital, we've got information, we're going into AI
Hmm.
and automation, but right now, we're in the era of customers, and we've been here since 2011, and putting them at the
Yep.
center of everything that you do is
Yep.
so important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that goes. And sorry to interrupt you, but I think that is a huge thing that, especially in the transportation and supply chain space, it wasn't utilized enough. It's saying, oh, I've got these customers. I'm going to make sure that nobody knows who we're working with, because the second that somebody knows, then they're going to go out and get called. It's like, oh yeah,
Oh
I've done
my
this, done that.
god.
Yeah, and it's like,
So, I
no.
love that you just said that. So Beta Consulting is,
Yeah,
quote, competitor to Virago
yeah,
Marketing. And I had a conversation with Adam Robinson yesterday from the Robinson
yeah.
Agency, who's,
Love
quote,
Adam.
competitor to Virago
Yeah,
Marketing. Yeah. But I'm like, oh, I'd love to have you on the podcast, because my thought is people are going to choose what's the best fit for them on many,
hmm,
many things. It could be your
yep,
offering, it could be your product, it could be the experience, it could
hmm,
be, there's a whole plethora of things. And I would actually encourage everybody to talk to the different competitive solutions and figure out what's the
agreed.
best fit for you. And like, if you
Hmm.
want to work with me, you probably don't want to work with them. If you want to work with them, you probably don't want to work with me. Right.
Yeah,
So, I just really feel like it's the best fit, and, like, I would, lift you guys up as I am. I'm like, "Hey, come on the
yeah,
podcast, talk about the
for
cool
sure.
stuff you're doing." It's
Yeah,
not about competing. I mean, we're
yeah.
winning together, right?
Yeah, 100%. There's plenty of customers. I don't care which segment of the industry you're in. There's plenty of customers that are out there to
Yeah.
win and continue and go. And like we were just talking about too, of saying, hey, these are my customers and they're happy. Like, I firmly believe if you service your customers so well and create the best experience for them, and again,
Yeah.
continue and make it about them, they could get they could get thousands of calls every day, but they're gonna be like, hey, listen, I'm happy. Like, this, I appreciate you reaching out, et cetera, but I don't need another provider. I don't need another marketing firm or whatever it might be.
Right. We're good.
So I think, the more and more that you have that true customer centric approach, like you've been talking about, kind of where the industry's been going, you don't really have anything to worry about. And then if something does come up, there should be that feedback loop of saying, oh, dang, Coleman, you guys dropped the ball on this. Like, we need to get better next time. It's like, hey, perfect, right? Like, I'm glad to hear when we aren't servicing something because we want to make sure that it is going well. You want to have the candid feedback, I would say, back and forth.
Yeah, but I would also say, the relationships that, I build with Beta or, we have together or whatever, or other agencies is like, we're collaborative. And when we look at being more collaborative than competitive, that means our customers are going to get better experiences because we work together,
For sure.
like we do this really well and they do this really well. And they can leverage that so that just like, their tech platforms, you could bolt on and get the best of the best that's going to work for you. And I think that's just beyond like supply chain tech, like being part of the ecosystem is so important that everybody gets, a seat at the table to do what they do great. Yeah.
100%. I also think that that's a pretty humbling thing. And I think it adds to your credibility, to anybody's credibility in the space of saying, okay, right, a company's coming to us talking about our marketing services, says, oh, this is what I really need. I'll be completely honest. Can we do it? It might not be our strongest suit. If this is the specific area that you're looking for, go reach out to Jen, right? Go reach out to whatever the company is, because it's not, because the worst part is saying, yes, I'll do it. And then you just don't service it. And then you just look like a terrible fit for what they were looking for. But like you were saying, I think it builds the network, builds the credibility. And I think we can, again, all really help each other as we're continuing to go, regardless, again, of the segment of the industry.
Because it's all about the customer.
Yeah.
It's all about them getting the best experience and them being successful. That's how we get successful. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what's a common myth about marketing in the supply chain space from your experience?
Man, there are so many. There's two that are jumping off the page. The first one is that it doesn't work. I have talked with so many companies, and I think that mindset is changing, right? I think that especially when I started out in the industry, again, I had a little bit of a different experience because we were branding and doing all that stuff within CH Robinson. But I had still talked with so many companies that were like, nah, we don't need a marketing team. We need sales. Bring in account executives. Bring in the people that are going to pound the phone and start landing business. Do companies need that? For sure. But I think that we're at the point within this industry where that is definitely changing. It's still important, but you need to have some sort of brand or marketing that's going along with this stuff, because these people are reaching out to prospects. If they've never heard of your company, I would be willing to bet that they're like, no, I haven't seen you on LinkedIn. I haven't seen anything or heard of you at all. No, this isn't the right fit. So I think that that's the biggest, probably one of the largest that I have seen out there myths, is that marketing doesn't work. It works. I promise you it works. Sometimes, the ROI might take a little bit longer as opposed to just picking up a phone and calling somebody to land business, but it's a flywheel. It's something that as you build it, it's going to continue and grow.
So I think one of the common misconceptions is that marketing is for lead generation, and not that it's not for lead generation, but its sole purpose is lead generation, right? And the fact of the matter is, you cannot generate leads if companies or your prospects are not aware of you. And so there's things that you need to do with the KPI of getting engagement, demand generation, to get them to, become an inbound lead and fill out a form and say, I want to do a demo, or I want to talk to somebody, or pick up the phone and call you. So, I mean, for me, that's probably one of the most frustrating misconceptions, is just like, not everything we do. Like, you can't take every marketing dollar and say, how many leads, or how much is a lead if I spent X amount of dollars? I'm like, well, how much brand awareness do you have? What's the traffic on your website? So that's one of the most frustrating ones.
Very much so. And I think that's a lot of things that a lot of companies struggle with, is tying some of these KPIs in the measurables of what the ROI is to marketing, which sometimes it's a lot harder, sometimes it's a lot easier. But I think that's something why a lot of companies are saying marketing isn't worth it. It's because they haven't found how it's truly affecting everything else. Yeah. It's like there are definitely ways.
Yeah, you have to measure the movement through the pipe, right? So you have to have the contacts. You should own 100% of your TAM. Then you should have the contacts moving through the funnel at every stage and being able to say, somebody that's not aware of us became aware of us, and then they've engaged to a certain threshold, and then they've converted to a sales qualified lead. Then they became an opportunity. When you can measure all the way through the funnel, I feel like sometimes if you skip, you're just trying to go from lead to close, and it's like, well, they don't even know who you are.
Exactly.
You know that they know who you are first before you can move them through, right? And then I think if you market at the various stages and have different KPIs for the various stages, you'll be able to measure and see those results in a more clear, succinct way than if you're like, okay, we're doing all these things, and how many leads did we produce?
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot to be said for brand awareness, a lot to be said. And that's, again, personal and professional at the same time. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that one.
So I always hear that this industry is so far behind the rest, which I feel like, people like you and myself and Trey and Kara and everybody, from a marketing standpoint, I feel like we've advanced this industry. And there's other amazing marketers. I don't want to just, toot our horns. There's other amazing marketers in this space. I just don't feel like we're as behind as we used to be. And so how do you think marketing teams can break through the noise and stand out today? What tactics are you seeing that are effective?
Yeah. And I think that a big portion of that, talking about, the people that you just mentioned and all the other great marketers that have come into the industry. So backtracking just a little bit, I was one of those people that firmly believes that it's a pretty inundated industry and had a lot of room for improvement, right? You saw the big injection of technology, and I think you've seen that from a marketing standpoint as well. And I think that it really comes from trusting your people. I think that there's a lot of times, especially marketers, might have some crazy ideas, and I get it. It's some of them oh man, we've never done anything like this. Is this how we want to go, about to market and kind of building our brand or whatever it is? But I think it really is about trusting the people that are coming in. You hire them for a reason. Let them go. Let the marketing people do what they do. This is also then
creative. Yeah.
Give them room to get creative. And I think that this is also something that is a common myth, is that every marketing campaign idea has to be perfect. There are going to be marketing campaigns. There are going to be initiatives that fall flat on its face from oh man, we didn't get the traction that we were hoping for, or whatever it is. But there's still something that happens from that, again, from people seeing it. It's oh, there's a branding aspect of that. So going back to your question, I really do think it's about trusting your people. If you trust the people that you bring in for specific roles, let them run, let them get creative, let them do what they need to do. That's what's really going to make a marketing team successful, a marketing person successful. If you feel like you always have to operate under these different constraints, then you're going to get a lot of the exact same thing over and over and over again, which is going to get stale. And then again, it's working against yourself at that point. There are some really creative people that are coming into this industry from a marketing standpoint, and again, across the board, that haven't been in the supply chain space. They're oh man, there's a lot of opportunity. So trusting those people, letting them go. I think that you have to do that. And that's, again, across the board, not just from a marketing standpoint.
I think one of my favorite examples of this, and it just always stands out to me because I've been in the industry for quite some time. I've gone to shows for many years, and I've seen this kind of evolution. And some of it's probably in part to COVID, but the shows have always been this blazer, slacks, dress pants. I mean, I remember wearing high heels to these shows, and my feet were killing me.
Oh, goodness.
Killing me. But then you're starting to see this, and I'm in particular talking about green screens. I love And there's a story behind it too. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but Don just told me it at Manifest. You know, they have these like Hawaiian like shirts. They've got the branded shoes. They're branded, they're comfortable, they look sharp. Like, I mean, talk about like trusting your team and kind of going and trying something new, because everybody was wearing these blazers and stuffy and like super professional. And it's like, now they have like some personality, some flair.
For sure.
And, you know, you're starting to see some of that pick up in other places. Imitation is flattery. So for sure. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in the same. I'm like, I want to get some branded Nikes. I love them. I love them.
Oh yeah. And I think that there's still something to be said for having like a professional outing and things like that. But for me personally, wearing a suited, like a blazer, button up and all that stuff for 4 days, I could not do it. But I think there's a time and place, right? But I think it's also important to kind of just let your personality and company culture shine, right? Like, to your point, green screens is a perfect example of that. You see them, they all seem like they're in fairly relaxed outfits, obviously super intelligent people. But you're like, that's something that I want to associate with. I would rather, in that sense, go up to that booth and just be like, if I didn't know who green screens was, go up to them and say, what do you guys do? Like, it seems like you guys have some fun stuff going on. This is great. Yeah, they look very approachable
and fun. And it seems like it's easier to have a conversation rather than seeing somebody stand there and they're, you know, dressed to the nine and they're like, oh, I don't want to.
You have to be able to stand out. And let's be honest, we've all walked up and down these aisles at these conferences, and then you make the awkward eye contact with somebody at the booth and you're like, oh, no, you got to kind of look away and keep walking. You want to have that ability to invite people. And I'm going to just throw this completely out there, talking about standing out, because if somebody doesn't do this next year, I'm going to be mad. But the perfect thing that somebody should have done for their booth to get traction and get people to them is had a Valentine's card making station. Like, Valentine's Day was a day after.
Make one, because you know you don't have time to run to the store.
Exactly.
It's got little buttons.
That would literally have everybody there, like in a line. So somebody take that idea for next year, please, because I know that we're not going to be getting a booth, but somebody do that. I'll be there at least.
Maybe we'll get a big old booth. I don't know. No, but that is really great. And it sucks that you have like these great ideas as like afterthoughts, because it's like I was not thinking it was Valentine's Day coming back. In fact, I was like, what day is it? Where am I?
Literally. I mean, and bless my wife's heart. She is always so good at that stuff. I woke up on Friday morning because Thursday, right? It was a long weekend in Vegas. Thursday was kind of a wash of a day where you're kind of still in that fog, catching up on a whole bunch of stuff. And then Friday, again, bless her heart, I woke up and she got a card for me, and I'm like, I need to do this. So like, if I just had that on lock already, it would have been huge. See, that's the real smart thing to do.
So, I love that idea. Well, I'll be honest. I love the puppies. Puppies are always
that is one of the best things. Like,
I love that.
It's a great step away from like the chaos that's everything and just being with puppies. That's definitely one of the best parts. Not to say that those aren't the good things, but
for the card, like, you know where it says like Hallmark on the card, like on the back, if you put like your brand company there, so that's where the brand is. I would hate to see something like, oh, I shippo you or something like that. Not like that, but like a very subtle branding, as in like, it's, again, back to the customer. This is for you, because when you go home, it's Valentine's Day, and I don't know if you remembered that. And so it's like very subtle, like, hey, we're doing this for you, but not like, hey, I shippo you, or
like, please do not do that.
Integrate your brand so much that it's tacky.
Not
like if Chippo didn't do that, but
but like, to your point, it would be if I was building my personal brand, like if it was my own company, whatever it was like, hey, happy Valentine's Day, and it was just a picture of me in a card. Like, okay, come on now, nobody's gonna want that. That doesn't help at all. But like, a little bit of branding goes a long way. But I think it's the thought behind it, and then again, getting people to it. But then you can talk to them, and they have that little piece of just, oh yeah, this is the company that made sure I didn't drop the ball on Valentine's Day.
They saved my butt. They could save my butt again.
Exactly. Partners.
No, that's awesome. 100%. You know what? I think that's something that companies need to keep in mind when they do their tchotchkes. So I love the socks. Everybody knows I love the socks. Danielle Spinelli and I walked around and gathered all the socks. But if you do things in a subtle way that are like cool and like people want to wear, it's going to have a better impact. People are going to wear it. If you just do a shirt that's like just your brand, who's gonna wear that, right? So you need 100%. To think about that experience. You need to get the investment to get the tri-poly blend. You need to have like a cool design. It's not just about your brand, it's about the experience. So 100%. Even if it's like a little subtle thing, it's got your branding in there, but it's still like something cool that you would want to wear, because you just make a whole bunch of stuff people don't want to wear, like the hats. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to wear a big hat that says like Salesforce across.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna wear that.
Yeah.
But
I think
you can, like,
go ahead.
Do subtle things. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think that swag, to your point, goes a long way, right? Like everybody's always seen swag as like, oh, we need it. But to your point, some of it gets repetitive. Some of it's like not the nicest stuff in the world. But I think that this also then goes back to the green screens side of things, like swag for your people that they want to wear, that they are like, oh, this is cool, and I want to wear it around. It draws people in. And I think a perfect example of this from Manifest. The company name, there's a company named Bear Cognition, and I was doing some emails or whatever it was at the beer garden, and Kieran Lang, I think he's their EVP of sales or something like that, came up and he said, hey, is this you taking, whatever. So I was knocking out some emails, but he walks up and they had the sickest branded Helly Hansen vests. And the second that I saw that, Helly Hansen, big ski brand, pretty common out here. The second that I saw that, I knew I wanted to start talking to them. I was like, that is one of the coolest vests I've ever seen. Like, are you giving those away? Because I'll beat over to your booth, like literally right now. Or if you ever happen to just rebrand and you need to get rid of this, like, let me know. But then it sparked the conversation just solely around what he was wearing. I'm like, man, that is pretty cool. What do y'all do? And then we started talking a lot more in depth of like how we could help each other out, whatever it might be. But it truly does go a long way to help your brand stand out a little bit, as opposed to, again, your point, just the typical branded Nike polo or whatever it might be. Not to say that that's necessarily always a bad thing, but stand out.
Another shout out for green screens is their shirt, no BS, just GS. So it's like it's fun and funny and engaging. So I think if you are going to do brands like that, then make it fun or engaging, not just not just the
same
brand.
Thing. Yeah, exactly. Like let's have fun with this stuff. And I think that's what people like to see. And going back from the traditional blazer, jeans, all of that stuff, I think you're starting to see these personalities start to flourish a little bit more from a personal standpoint, but also a branding side of things, where, and this is again kind of going back to all the creative people that are coming into our industry. They're starting to, for lack of a better way to put it, like letting their wings, go and start flying there. But it's really cool to see how things are transitioning.
Yeah. So let's switch gears back to, the marketing, not just the shows.
But,
a lot of companies rely heavily on like word of mouth and relationships. How can they modernize their marketing efforts while staying true to the foundation?
Yeah, I think that word of mouth and relationships is still very key. I think that's one of the best ways to continue and grow. But I think that you need to have a formalized process around that, and like we were talking about before, voice those relationships, voice those customers that are happy. So the one of the big things that I'm a huge believer in, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, is customer advocacy. Right?
Yeah.
You're relying on your relationships, you're relying on word of mouth, but help get that out there from a marketing standpoint, right? Get your customers and prospects together in a room, have a dinner, right? Where it's just, hey, we're hosting this. You happen to be like-minded people in the industry, just talk. You're assuming that your company is doing the right, or doing a good service, or providing a great technology, whatever it might be, your brand is automatically going to come up in some way, shape, or form because it's had a large effect on there. So I think that you have to stay true to the relationships and the word of mouth. But I think us as marketers, our job is to figure out how to get that out there. And it's talking about, yeah, we have to be comfortable with saying these are our customers. They're happy. Like let's elevate those voices. So I don't think you change anything. I think that if anybody, in my opinion, says, oh, our marketing needs to be this X, Y, and Z, let's just not utilize word of mouth and our relationships, I think that that's wrong, because I think that the best way from a marketing standpoint is to utilize those things. And just, again, it's all about, in my opinion, giving those revenue streams, if you will, a voice out in the market.
Yeah, I think that it says a lot if you build relationships with everyone versus your prospects.
Yeah.
And so that was like one of the foundations for Freight Movement. And I hate to keep going back to Freight Movement, but
no, you're fine. It's a great example of it.
So when you invite everyone to the table, there's value for everyone, whether it's a broker to talk to a carrier, or a shipper to talk to a broker, or, a driver to talk to a carrier, or tech partners to talk about integrations. Like when you bring everybody in, there's value for everyone. And it doesn't just feel like a sales dinner or a sales meeting or a sales event. It's like this is cool. I'm meeting people from different facets. And even though it might not be the person who's going to make the decisions, they can open doors. It's, again, back to the network is your net worth.
Yeah.
I can talk to so-and-so at this company and I'll be like, hey, if you guys ever need marketing or whatever, let me know, or pass my card to your marketing person, and it can open doors. And I haven't actually done that, but I haven't actually done that one, but I'm just saying, like, for, other companies, is like, don't just focus on your prospects, focus on your community, because
very much so.
Word of mouth, connections, relationships are still so important.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things that anybody needs to keep in mind. So from a marketing standpoint, I think it's like the two big pillars are educating and entertaining. Like if you can do one of those, you're going to get a lot of people, in the door, whatever it may be. But going back to what you're saying about giving value to the network, if this is anything that you ever do, I don't care if it's, just helping neighbors with certain things, or actually in your professional career, if you provide value, everything else tends to fall into place, right? Like if you are keeping a community in mind of like, how can I make sure that they're getting the most out of this interaction, the most value that I can ever provide, the monetary side, the branding, all of that other stuff is going to come into play. I think another great example of this, to your point, so similar to Freight Movement, but is Ballast. So Nate Schutz, who's getting together this group of just founders. Like that's his goal. I just want to put together founders so we can just talk about life, about what's going on.
I've gotten to a couple sessions. It's like therapy. I'm like, this is amazing because it's like a group of like-minded individuals that are going through the same pain points as you.
Yeah,
it's really great.
Exactly. And I had the opportunity to shadow one of the sessions over at Manifest, and Nate's not sitting there selling people on Ballast. He's not saying you need to join because of XYZ. No, it's from a word of mouth standpoint. Even at that point, it's like, hey, we're here just because being a founder is that's a lonely spot to be in, right? Sometimes you can't talk to your team about a lot of things. You can't talk to your family because things are going wrong. You don't want to worry anybody. And I was talking with him about this, and I said the exact same thing. You are providing a crazy amount of value to these people that have felt isolated at any given time in their career, and they're helping each other out. And again, you're just providing the platform to do it. Everything else is going to fall into place. So similar to that, and again, what you were talking about with Freight Movement, I had to give a shout out to Ballast.
Absolutely. I love what he's doing. I've attended some sessions. I think they're awesome. I love how engaging and free sharing everybody is on those calls. My biggest, the thing holding me back is the time. They meet so much. And I love that. How do I get there?
Exactly. Provide value, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the word value is just like a tremendous word to keep in mind. Like, no matter what you're doing in your marketing, how are you providing value in your conversations, in your messaging, on your website? You should always be focused on providing value all throughout the buyer's journey. So that's a really great, takeaway. So looking ahead, what trends do you see shaping the future of marketing in the freight and supply chain industry?
Oh, man. Everything is changing. Okay, so
well, what you thought you knew has now changed.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, hey, I can say it's going to be this one week and then it's going to be something else the next week. I'm a big believer, hence, I mean, this podcast and others that are going on, that things are transitioning a lot towards the video and just audio form of content. Is there still a time and a place for a blog or newsletter that goes out? Sure, of course. I think that, again, as long as you're adding value, going back to it, nobody wants to read a long newsletter. It's like, oh, what did I get out of this? For websites and SEO and stuff, sure. Again, blogs and things like that are important. But I genuinely believe that this is how most of the content is going to be consumed. If you want to call it the TikTokification of our industry or anything like that, I think people's attention spans are a lot smaller than what they used to be, especially with the kind of this newer generation that's coming into the workforce. I think most content is going to be consumed in some sort of audio or visual form. So whether it's a post on LinkedIn, I think you've got maybe 10 seconds, if not even less, probably about 5 seconds to capture somebody's attention. Once it's captured, you maybe got 15 to 20 seconds until they're like, okay, I'm a little bit over. Yeah, exactly. And then from like if people are driving in their car, commuting, I mean, I can't tell you how many podcasts I listen to whenever I'm in the car, and I just envision that's how everything is going to be consumed moving forward. So audio and visual, like from a video content perspective, that's really what the wave, or in my opinion, what the future is. And again, right, we're all doing it right now. There's a good core group of us that are doing it. But I think that the market as a whole, it's a very small percentage.
So Coleman, we're going to do an exercise on the fly. Okay.
Oh, no.
So we got a branding exercise here. So a traditional podcast is audio on like Spotify or, Apple, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not that.
Yeah.
What is this? I mean, yes, we do upload it to, Buzzsprout that goes on like Spotify and stuff, and you can listen to the audio. But this also goes on YouTube and it's visual. I don't do this live. So, I mean, I guess in my mind, I'm thinking like, this is like something different than a podcast, which could seem super daunting. Like, oh my God, how do I do that? And this is like, hey, this is like talking head video where I interview people and share these insights. Provide value to people that are, tuning in, but they can watch on YouTube, LinkedIn, they can listen on Spotify, but it's different. What would you call this?
Yeah. I would call this everything. And like, this is going to sound super strange. Yeah. Like, so this is, in my opinion, the best way to do it, right? So exactly like you said, when people are like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast, they're like, oh man, that sounds like it's a lot of effort.
I don't have a professional microphone. I don't have a professional camera, or I don't have like the ins and outs and the different schematics things. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but those like scary tables that people have.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Some people get like super in depth. I'm literally just on my computer with AirPods. We were talking about this beforehand, right? Yeah. It's this. So going back to your question, when I'm saying this is everything, I think that this is the content. Could you create a Joe Rogan podcast? Sure. Like you have a formalized studio and all that stuff. If you really wanted to get that, that sounds like a lot of work. But if you just record a conversation with somebody, just like we're doing, this in my mind checks all of those boxes, because you can pull out of this hour-long conversation that we're going to have, you can pull at least, I would assume, 40 pieces of content. And again, this is some visual that can go on to LinkedIn, onto Facebook, whatever it is, of just a quick little snippet. To your point, it can go on to Spotify, Apple Music, whatever it might be, from just a strictly the full audio perspective. You can utilize stuff like this for your website. Like, these are the things that you do that you can have some evergreen content and
Yep.
a darn lot of it too. So I wouldn't classify this as a podcast. I mean, if you want to call it a podcast 100%, could it be classified as that? Yes. But I think that this is just really two people who think like-minded in the industry and want to further it, just having a conversation, and you get a ton of stuff that comes from it.
Yeah. I think we need to come up with a name for it. I don't know if it's a
Yeah.
vlog.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
like I've heard that term before, but like what is
Yeah.
that? What is a vlog?
Yeah.
Is it a
Yeah.
vlog?
I mean, I don't think so. In my mind, when I think of a blog, and maybe this is the only way that I think of it because that's the only
Not
blogs
a
that I've
blog,
ever consumed
a
is like,
blog.
oh yeah, but like,
B-L-O-G.
but like what I'm comparing it to is like the only blogs that I've heard of are like travel
Yeah.
blogs. Like, oh yeah, I've gone to, oh, now I'm here and now I'm that. Like when I think of video, like a vlog, it's just somebody recording themselves saying the same thing. It's like, hey, now I'm here. This is the check-in point, yada, yada, yada. I mean, could it be considered a vlog?
Like a
Yeah.
journal.
But yeah.
Like a video journal. I don't know what this
exactly.
is. We're gonna continue this.
Yeah, there's going to be some sort of branding that's going to come from exactly what all this stuff is.
All right. Well, it is time for my favorite question, which I am unsure if you knew if I was going to ask this or not, but it is spill some secret sauce. So it's something that you know that's not like commonly known. It could be information or insight about a show, about a tactic, advice somebody gave you one day, but something to make somebody that's listening help them be more successful.
Oh man, the secret sauce. I think that I think that a lot of the things that I would say from a secret sauce standpoint are not secret. It's just about doing it. I mean, everything that we've talked about, all of this stuff is fairly common knowledge. I mean, from a customer advocacy standpoint, you'd be surprised at how many people I'm talking with that don't do that or don't actually have some sort of formalized process. Like from a business standpoint, that is something that every single company out there should be doing. Like, and I don't want to say it's a secret sauce because people talk about it, but you know, I have conversations with people every day like, oh yeah, you know, we have happy customers. That's about it. I'm like, well, do something with it. Like have it affect your business. Like like utilize that word of mouth and go.
You have happy customers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's literally it. And then it's similar idea to what we were talking about from from a business standpoint, B2B customer advocacy, in my opinion, is probably one of the biggest things that a lot of companies aren't doing. So if you want to consider that a secret sauce, sure, but just freaking do it, please. From a personal standpoint, again, it's not a secret sauce, but a lot of people just don't do it, is truly the building your network. And then always keep in mind, it's not always about you, right? Add the value to other people, focus on other people within your network and how you can help them. And then everything comes back in full speed. So again, I wish I had maybe it's something I'll think of 15 minutes after we're done with this. I'm like, oh, I thought of a perfect idea. Like, let's hop on a call again.
We'll send it to me.
Yeah, exactly. But I think a lot of it is just the stuff that is a little bit under the radar, maybe that people know about, they just don't do.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell all the listeners how they could get in touch with you if they like to? Yeah,
100%. Easiest ways, probably email, call, text, LinkedIn, whatever it is. Coleman Ruffin on LinkedIn.
Slack, WhatsApp.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've got all of them there. Or
so whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. The easiest way is definitely gonna be on LinkedIn. I'm super active on there. Just Coleman Ruffin. Email, totally fine too. Personal, professional, Coleman@betaconsultinggroup.com or just Coleman.ruffin@gmail.com. Sometimes I'm hesitant to throw out the personal one, but I'm like, if people really wanted to guess, they're going to get it anyway. Like the first name, last name @gmail.com is the easiest one in the world. So I'm never afraid to give that.
Well, they can hunt you down if they want to.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate all of your insight. And I look forward to figuring out what we're going to call this.
Yeah, 100%. We'll come up with a name, and then that's definitely going to be captioned everywhere with this episode.
Yes, we'll let everybody know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Named it.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. Thank you so much for inviting me too. This is
absolutely.
A blast.
Hold on just a second.